Today I'm going to show you how to save a few $100 by doing a Galaxy S4 screen replacement yourself. Remember, if you do this right, it'll be a $10 repair. If you do this wrong, it will end up being a lot more. So proceed at your own risk. Check the links in the video description below for the current prices on replacement parts. I've already taken apart this phone as to not cause any heat damage to the main board and charging port. You can go ahead and click the link in the upper corner to see how I did that. I also taped down the cables so that they won't be kinked or twisted in any way, because if those cables are kinked or twisted, it'll end up having a black screen that is unrepairable. That'll be a more expensive repair. Anyway, you want to gently heat up the phone. This will take about 4 or 5 minutes. If you heat up in one place too long, there'll be a burn mark in the middle of the screen. I use this handy laser heat sensor thing to tell me how hot the phone is. I will put a link in the video description below for this as well. It's relatively cheap. Now I'm taking a razor blade and gently putting it between the glass screen and the frame of the phone itself. The adhesive up at the top is a little bit different than the adhesive that is covering the LCD. So I'm using my knife to separate the top so I can slip my wire down inside. I'm being really careful because right here on this corner there are 2 ribbon cables that are in charge of the LCD and digitizer. If you rip those cables, you're toast and you have to buy the more expensive replacement part. Here is the wire that I'm going to be using. It's a special wire that's used for high temperature applications like this. I'm just going to take it, wrap it around my fingers, and then slide it in that top part where I've already separated the glass from the phone itself. Now the goal here is to work it over the earpiece on the phone and then slide it down the rest of the way. You can see that it's getting harder for me to cut. That's because in the 60 seconds that I have not been heating up the phone, it's cooled down to the point that the glue is not liquid anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and heat it up gently. The perfect temperature range is anywhere from 185 degrees Fahrenheit to about 210. It's about the same temperature as boiling water. So when you touch the screen, it's going to be too hot for your fingers. I'm going to use my knife to separate and clear off this corner one more time. And that should give me enough room to get this wire wedged down on the screen itself. And then I can tug downwards on both ends of the wire to separate the adhesive from the phone itself and the shattered glass that we're taking off. If your wire does catch on one of the glass shards, you can just lift it up with your razor and then continue going downwards again. What's nice about the Galaxy S4 screens is that they are laminated, so they don't come off in shards. They're all going to come off in one big piece. You can see up at the top of the screen my wire has grabbed this little blue piece of plastic. This is a shield that is over the LCD ribbon cable. I'm just going to reach in with my tweezers and pull that out. Sometimes the wire grabs it, sometimes it doesn't. Another method that you can use is playing cards. If you get like poker cards, you can use those to slide down in the screen instead of wire. I actually prefer the poker card method better than the wire method, so I'm going to make a video on that here in the next few weeks. So don't forget to subscribe if you want to see that. Now I'm going to heat up the phone again as it's cooled down too much for me to pull the wire through. Remember, once the phone gets too hot to touch, you're good to go. If it gets hotter than about 212 degrees though, you're going to start having burn marks on the screen. You can see how easily the wire slides between the shattered glass and the digitizer underneath. My wire does catch on a glass shard right here and rips the wire, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull it out the rest of the way, grab a new piece of wire, use my tweezers to just lift up the edge of the glass a little bit, and then start over with a new piece of wire. Pretty simple. The wire's pretty cheap as well, so it's not too big of a deal if it breaks. And then just continue separating the rest of the way down. It's getting colder, down to 137. I'm going to go ahead and heat it back up to about 190, 200 degrees, and then continue separating it the rest of the way down. You have to be careful as you reach the bottom here because there is a little ribbon cable that is in charge of the menu buttons and the home button. So you just want to get the edge of the screen, and then once the screen is off, as you can see right here, you can lift up the glass and pull it away from the device itself. This is the little ribbon cable that I was talking about. And then I usually take my razor blade and just pry off the buttons from the glass itself, making sure not to tear the cable at all. Even though the cable's only about $4 or $5, it's nice if you can just reuse the old one. And then I'm just going to separate the last segment of adhesive from the bottom of the screen and then pull it off. Pretty straightforward, and honestly, if you've gotten this far, the chances are you're going to succeed. Getting the glass off is the hardest part. Here you can see the shattered glass and how it's laminated. Pretty good move. The Galaxy S3s weren't laminated, they would come off in shards. Anyway, so there is leftover adhesive on the screen of the phone, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of roll that off with my finger. It comes off in chunks and is also strangely satisfying, so you can just sit here and roll off the rest of the glue. There also is a chance that you won't have any adhesive left over on the screen. It just kind of depends on how the phone was made and how old it is and the temperature you use to separate the glass from the phone. And now before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and test the screen just to make sure I'm not wasting my time by putting a new one on. Remember that the digitizer, which is the layer right underneath the glass, is about as fragile as an egg. And so if you break that, then you're toast. Here's the little wire. Right here in the corner is what normally rips. So make sure that there's no tears or anything in that cable. If there is a tear, buy a new one before you put the new screen on. Everything looks good with the phone. The touch works even though the glass is not on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and grab some denatured alcohol, which is an alcohol specifically made for electronics, to clean off the rest of the adhesive from the phone itself. Just go ahead and remember that the what we're dealing with here is about as fragile as an eggshell, so don't press any harder than you would on the side of an egg. Now, as far as replacing the glass goes, you have two options. The first of which is the easiest, cheapest, and most forgiving, but will also leave your phone slightly more vulnerable to breaking again. It's the double-sided tape. It's super cheap, and all you have to do is lay down the tape around the edges of the phone and then rest the top glass in place over it, and that's it. You're done, you have a fully functioning phone, and it's ready to go. There are a few places locally to me that only do this type of repair. It is easier, much easier. The second option is using a Loca glue. It is an ultraviolet light-activated optical adhesive. It's a little more complicated, so I'll be making a part 2 video to follow up with this one and explain how that more complicated repair is done. It's also not super expensive, but you kind of have a bigger chance of ruining your phone. But it is more durable as well. Anyway, so if you're going to use the double-sided tape, make sure to cover up every part, except for the earpiece and the home button, and make sure to get the sides of the phone as well so that the screen will be completely adhered and dust won't be able to get inside. The double-sided tape is easy to peel off, as you can see there. Grab the glass, make sure to peel off both sides of the plastic, lay it down into place so it's fully adhered to the sticky tape, and you're done. I would definitely recommend getting a case this time around. Go ahead and click in the top corner to see how the Loca glue is done. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments. Don't forget to like if this video helped you, and don't forget to subscribe. It means a lot. Thanks for watching.